He stood at the base of the ramp like a man returning to something sacred. The ship loomed above, gray steel, catching the early morning sun, as young officers filed past him without so much as a glance. Then came the voice.
"Oh,
Sir, this ship doesn't take tourists." It was sharp, not cruel, just procedural. A lieutenant, young and squared away, already dismissing the older man with his posture alone. The veteran paused. No argument, no protest. Just a long, steady gaze up at the vessel, as if he could see something no one else could. He folded a worn piece of paper in his pocket, nodded slightly, and turned to walk away. No one stopped him. No one asked his name. They didn't know the man who could save them. That was their first mistake. His apartment was small, quiet, and smelled faintly of coffee and old engine oil. Every morning began the same, 5:30 sharp, feet on the floor, kettle whistling by 5:45. A navy blue mug with the emblem still bright from years of careful washing sat beside a cracked photo frame, 5 sailors smiling on a steel deck. One of them younger, leaner, but unmistakably him. The phone rarely rang. A few shipmates called on birthdays. He didn't mind the solitude. It gave him time to tinker with small engines and run diagnostics on systems most people no longer understood. A plaque on the shelf read, USS Jacobson. Integrity through storms. He cleaned it every week, like it still mattered. To him, it did. The Jacobson had been mothballed for a decade before someone high up decided it was worth reactivating. Too sturdy to scrap, too storied to ignore, it was brought back as a tactical training vessel, stripped, refitted, but still bearing the soul of the ship it once was. Its legacy went deep, though few of the new officers knew it. Focused on digital systems, drones, and procedural drills. But the bones of that ship, they were analog, mechanical, hands-on. The kind of systems you didn't learn from a manual, you learned them at sea. Under pressure, when lives depended on knowing where the fault lines hid, and the man who knew every inch of that vessel better than any engineer? He was now a ghost, walking among the living. 2 days before the drill, he made his way down to the pier. Nothing fancy, just a folded sheet of paper tucked in his coat, showing prior clearance from an old contact. But the young lieutenant hadn't even looked at it. "Sir, this ship doesn't take tourists," he'd said again, as polite, firm, unmoved. The veteran offered a small nod, said nothing, and stepped back. He watched them as they worked, organizing. Cadets and checking clipboards, unaware that the man they'd just dismissed once kept this very vessel running through a typhoon. No bitterness. Just a quiet retreat down the pier, boots echoing softly on concrete. That's the thing about experience. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just watches and waits. From a distance, he spotted it, a technician pointing to a junction panel on the port side, explaining something that didn't quite add up. The veteran's eyes narrowed. He walked over, slow and steady. "If you're running a direct feed from that bypass, it's going to trip the load sensors," he said gently. The team looked at him, puzzled. "Do you work here?" On them. Asked. "No," he replied. "But I did, back when that panel wasn't just a drawing in a manual." One of them smirked. "We've got it covered, sir." Before he could say more, the lieutenant returned. "Sir, we've asked you to leave. This is a restricted operation." There was no anger in the veteran's eyes, just concern and regret. He turned again, quieter this time, and walked away. The simulation began at dawn. Within 90 minutes, systems failed. Thermal load spiked. A cascade shut down propulsion redundancies. The crew was ordered out of engineering quarters. Emergency. Teams scrambled. The drill was aborted. Wasn't catastrophic, but it could have been. And in the after-action report, the technicians admitted they'd overlooked a legacy fault in the bypass system. It's the same one the old man had quietly pointed out just the day before. In the control room, tempers flared. Fingers pointed. And somewhere in the chaos, someone finally asked, "Who was that man?" Lieutenant McConnell stood at attention in the Admiral's office, tension thick in the air. "We had a civilian near the ramp a couple days ago, sir. I removed him." "Wasn't authorized." Admiral Raymond Hillard, for decades in uniform, stared hard. Describe him. The lieutenant hesitated. Older knew his way around the ship. Said something about the cooling system. Hillard turned to his computer, pulling up old logs. There, in the ship's original maintenance records, was a name etched in digital stone. Chief Systems Supervisor, Thomas E. Rourke. 3 tours aboard the Jacobson. Commendations. Crisis deployments. It wasn't just a name, it was a legacy. Hillard stood. Find him. McConnell found him at a dockyard near the industrial district. The veteran was elbow-deep in a diesel engine, his navy cap tucked on a hook nearby. Mr. Rourke asked quietly. The man stood up, wiped his hands, and looked him in the eye. Lieutenant, no anger, no bitterness, just a simple recognition. I owe you an apology, McConnell said. Should have listened. The older man nodded slowly. It happens. McConnell extended an invitation. The Admiral would like you to return. Today, Pier 9, 1500 hours. There was a pause, not of hesitation, but of memory. I'll be there, the old man said. This time no one blocked his path. As he stepped onto the ramp, the young crew parted like water. On the deck stood Hillard, McConnell, and the engineers. From the failure, Hillard extended his hand. Welcome aboard, Chief. The veteran returned the handshake. It didn't mean to cause trouble, sir. You didn't, Hillard replied. You reminded us who this ship used to rely on. McConnell stepped forward, eyes steady. I misjudged you, Mr. Rourke, and I'm sorry. Rourke looked at him a long moment, then nodded. You did what you thought was right, Lieutenant. Toward the open hatch. Now let's go fix your ship. Inside the engineering compartment, the hum of machinery filled the air, steady but off. Rourke ran a palm across a conduit panel, feeling where heat patterns didn't belong. This component that's not original. An engineer nodded, embarrassed. No, sir. We couldn't find the part, so we spliced a modern equivalent. Rourke crouched down, examined the insulation, and sighed. It won't hold under marine moisture. You'll lose signal integrity in 6 days, tops. He stood, motioned to a wall terminal. Recalibrate this. Reconnect autothermal sensors. And reroute the secondary board so the backup kicks in first. The room went silent. Orders, quietly given, were followed without question. 4 hours later, every reading sat in the green. The ship's diagnostics reported full stability. In the briefing room, Admiral Hillard addressed the assembled team. What you read in manuals. This man lived at sea. Every inch of this ship, every fault line, fuse, and backup he carried in his head. He didn't learn through textbooks. He learned through storms. McConnell stood off to the side, listening a little. More humbled than before, the Admiral turned to the veteran. You've done more than fix a system. You've reminded us how to respect what came before. Rourke said nothing. She gave a nod and quietly stepped out of the room. The Jacobson's final reactivation drill went perfectly. The vessel ran like a song. No hitches, no faults, no failures. As it docked again, ready for full service, Admiral Hillard signed off on the after-action report. At the bottom, he added one personal note. This success would not have been possible without the guidance and expertise of Mr. Thomas Rourke. The printed report was hand-delivered that evening to a small apartment off Truman Street. The old man sat at his table, unfolded the letter, and read the words twice. Then quietly, he folded it again and placed it into a worn envelope filled with old commendations, faded photographs, and one creased navy blue ribbon. The next morning, before the sun cracked the horizon, Rourke stood at the edge of Pier 9. He wore his old jacket, the one with salt stains that never washed out. In his hand was a folded cap. The Jacobson sat ready, crew bustling aboard, final checks in motion. From the deck, McConnell saw him and made his way down the ramp. Didn't think you'd come, he said with a smile. I had to, Rourke replied. They stood side by side, looking up at the ship. You could have sailed with us, McConnell said. The old man smiled faintly. I already did, Lieutenant. Now it's your watch. Engines roared to life. Mooring lines were pulled. The Jacobson eased into the channel, cutting through water like memory through time. As the ship disappeared past the horizon, Rourke raised his cap to his chest and whispered, "Fair winds." Then he turned and walked away, steady, at peace, and part of the sea once more.